Oh, kia ora te whānau. Nau mahara mai, welcome to one of our Woo Kōrero this evening. But before I introduce our guests, before we get into the kōrero, just like to do a karakia. So, ino e tātou. Hui, hauora mai runga, hauora mai raro, hauora mai roto, hauora mai waho. Hauora te pūtaki o tēnei kaupapa, ki a pūrangi aho mātou I te wānanga me te kōrero. Tēnei te titiaki te pauhaura ki te pūtaki o tēnei wānanga. Tūturu o whiti whakamaua ki a tīna, tīna. Haumi e hui e, tai ki e. Tui a te rangi, tui a te whenua, tui a te pauherenga tangata o te motu, kei taku kienge tū heitia potato te wherewhero, te tuawhitu, pai mārire. Kia ko ōtira ki a tātou, e mihi ana ki a tātou, tātou kua whakakotahi mai ki te tautoko I te karanga o te pō. Tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Ko tuihana ohi a hau. I am super amped for tonight. I am really excited, and first I just want to welcome all those that have come aboard to listen to a kōrero tonight focused on the kaupapa of Mental Health Awareness Week. And I just want to, welcome nau mai, haere mai, the gorgeous Jolene Profitt and the awesome, wonderful, very handsome Wheeti Maipi. And I'm going to hand it over to you two to introduce yourselves. Kia ora.
Kia ora whānau, ko hukangi te maunga, wai pute awa, rau te tuaka ngātu prau te iwi, ko Jolene Profitt ahau. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Kia ora whānau, ko taupiri te maunga, ko waikato te awa, ko waikato tainu I tōku iwi, ko Ngāti Mahuta me Ngāti Papaki o Kuhapu, ko wāhi me te wahaki o Kumarai, ko rāhu I pōki ka tapu o kaipo, ko Wheeti Maipi tōku ingoa. Kia ora.
Awesome. Kia ora, kia ora. Nau mahara mai, you two. I met Jolene, I think we've known each other a little while now, but one of my favourite memories, and I've shared this a few times, is getting onto a boat at, is it called Captain Tama's in Rarotonga? And I remember seeing you and all the Maipi whānau. Felt like there was 100 of them. And you know, I didn't really know what your mahi was, and then it's probably this year that it's been highlighted to me what your mahi is. And could you tell us both what you do with regards to the space that you work in? Because I know you both have a passion and a love for the mental health and wellbeing space. So tell us a bit about what it is that you do, please.
Yeah, well, I guess, you know, I moved to the Waikato to do my nursing, and initially started off within burns and plastics, haematology, oncology, but it wasn't too long before I had the opportunity to move over into working within mental health, and I spent 20 years as a registered nurse working in a range of different mental health settings, and within kaupapa Māori. And currently, I moved into a position with strategy and funding, so that's within the Waikato WDHB, and I'm a service development manager there for mental health and addictions. So using my nursing knowledge and experience, the opportunity to look at scoping up and developing different mental health and addiction initiatives that are either rolled out or supported by the Ministry of Health and the government, and or any local initiatives and different ways of working and delivering services to our whānau across the Waikato. So it's a really exciting space to be in and to influence and advocate. Yeah.
And although it's for government space, Jolene, just before we move to Wheeti, does it give you the opportunity to innovate and create?
Absolutely. I use as I shared my nursing knowledge, but also my mātauranga Māori, and also reach into other networks, be it, you know, within any aspect and realm actually, to innovate and look at different ways of delivering services. So that's the exciting thing that keeps me really passionate about my mahi that I'm in. Obviously, It's got lots of challenges, because as shared with you before, I wish there was a lot more resource, a lot more funding, and our workforce to be able to deliver and support our whānau. So, yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah, I bet it is. Wheeti, what is it that you do in this space? Because you too also have an incredible passion for this space.
Yeah, so just like Jolene, my journey in mental health started 20 plus years ago with the Kaupapa Māori service as a support group, really. Became really interested in terms of how do I get or gain knowledge from different arena. So whilst I was working, I did study, became a counsellor, and ended up being a qualified drug and alcohol counsellor for the last 19 years. But yeah, recently I saw an advert in the paper about the Waikato WDHB wanting to look at a whānau advisor, and one of the key elements that attracted me to that was about they were looking for someone with lived experience, and I had a brother who was diagnosed with schizophrenia about 33 years ago, and he was a patient at Tokanui Hospital. And that was I suppose that was the start of my whole insight and my whole view on looking into the mental health system. Also, my son was diagnosed with bipolar about 13 years ago. So I thought that this role was made for me, to be quite honest with you, given that my experiences with my brother and my son, and so I have taken on this challenge to enter into the mainstream arena and to look at how to be more involved, where whānau can have more of a voice in the treatment of their loved ones when they're in the system. So that's where I'm at.
And Jolene, thank you, Wheeti. I did know of your brother, but I didn't know of your son. So I just want to mihi to you and to your son. And cool. It's often, isn't it, something personal that really inspires us to move it to work in these spaces. What was it for you, Jolene? Did you have a personal experience that kind of motivated you to walk into the space, to step into it?
I was sort of the opposite to Wheeti. I entered into a career as a nurse, and just by chance I had the opportunity. I went through Te Hei Mauiora, which was a Māori nurses stream at Wheeti, and one of my colleagues said to me, look, there's a opening up there, and I was on maternity leave actually with my eldest son, and it was just a few weekends, so I went and started working there, and then I made the complete leap, leaving the DHB and moved into Kaupapa Māori mental health. And a lot of my colleagues at the time sort of questioned my decision, one, to move into mental health and addiction, but also to leave the security of the DHB and go over into a Kaupapa Māori service. So, and a lot of people had said to me also, how can you do that? And I said, well, we look after people who have heart attacks, but not experience that personally ourselves. That doesn't make us, unable to be able to provide a fair and total to whānau. So I haven't looked back since I made that decision, and that was in 2000, to move over into mental health and addictions. And then, irrespective of where you work, your demographics, what you do, mental health and addiction issues are rampant, and affect everyone. And it was later on in my nursing career that a partner at the time became unwell. Is actually the father of my eldest son, and so that was quite a confronting and challenging time. I had the knowledge, I had the skills, I was within the system, but still it was quite a challenge to navigate and get the support that we needed. So Yeah, and I thought, gosh, this is my journey, and I have really access and knowledge, and it just really made me understand and appreciate the journey that our whānau go through, and systems and services need to be better to make it more accessible. Yeah.
What you talked about it being rampant, and what is it that you're both seeing that you think is concerning at the moment? Because I said to you before we came on, we're going to have some real we're going to go a little bit deep here with this kōrero tonight, because I think that we're aware there's lots going on in the community, but I don't, and we talk about it, but what's really going on, do you think? What do you think is, sending off a few alarm bells for you in terms of, and what kind of impact has COVID had on that? So I'd love to get your guys' kōrero and whakaaro on that.
Gosh, it's multifaceted, really.
Yeah. I don't think there's one answer to that, actually. I mean, you've got the, if you look back to when we were kids and how we grew up and what we had to what our children have now, so there was no such thing as picking up a cell phone back then, going on to social media, seeing things from all around the world, and I think that we've evolved into something that has created what we are actually seeing now. And what I'm seeing is that the demand for mental health services outweighs the resources that are available to be able to support people in the way that they actually need. It's just totally outweighed what we currently have to be able to help and support people that are going through some of those tough challenges that most of us face every day, really.
And what is it that they need, Wheeti? If there was an ideal world, and what is it that you feel that people need?
And you mean people who are seeking help?
Yes. Because you say, like we're under-resourced, but the demand is high. So I'm just wondering, if we could balance that out, what would that?
Aroha. Yeah. Aroha, understanding, the ability where we can sit and have a conversation. I remember back when I was growing up, sitting around the table having tea was one of the things that we would always look forward to. You can walk into households now and you ask yourself how often that actually happens now. We actually get the chance to sit down as a whānau to have a kōrero about how our day went. How are you feeling? Our dad always used to ask us about what do we want to be when we get older? What are our ambitions? What are our goals? And that was something that was a everyday conversation from our dad. And it was interesting because he only had one wish, and that wish was for none of his kids to die before he did. And we used to laugh and think, what a silly wish, until we became parents, and then it took on a totally different meaning. Yeah. So, and I think that real family unit has changed over time. And it's sort of come to the point where we're so busy doing what we have to do. Gone are the days where we would come home, mum was home, tea was cooked. That doesn't happen anymore. Mum and dad are both working, trying to put a roof over our heads, put food on the table. That whole family structure has actually changed. So it's not surprising that we are here now.
Yeah.
At all. And when you look around the world, it's happening everywhere. And so that's my thoughts anyway.
Awesome. And you're Jolene, what's some of the,
Yeah, I guess it's that stuff that Peter was talking about. It's not rocket science, and if you look at all like the 5 ways to well-being and and the different themes within Mental Health Awareness Week, and just like social aspects. It is all the fundamental core basic things around connecting, around taking time for ourselves, you know, about just building relationships, you know, different ways in terms of just simple things, even like getting a good night's sleep, you know, or how to manage challenging situations and build resilience. Now, even down to communication skills, you know. And if you look at, you know, the recent release from the government, you know, 5 of the key components, core functions, 3 of those were all around whānau, community, different initiatives, because it's about everybody being able to support and provide assistance to each other. And it's just those things like kia ora, you know, or how are you doing, you know, and doing it with meaning and intent to actually engage and support and be a listening ear. You know, we could talk about all the different things at a different ranging different levels about, you know, more psychiatrists or psychologists and things like that. And there's a space and place for that in terms of, you know, the higher level end of need. But I think there is a significant amount of work that needs to happen to build and strengthen whānau communities. Yeah.
And, you know, do you think that, well, actually, I'm pretty certain that there is, but there's still some hesitancy around actually voicing, you know, actually stepping, you know, like saying, hey, I'm not doing so well. There's still, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just reading, you know, that old adage of she'll be right, you know. It's like, well, it's, you know, you've heard the key phrase recently that's coming out, you know, it's okay to be not okay, you know, and just being vulnerable, you know, and knowing that it's okay to talk or to reach out for help. You know, and I know it's significant, you know, it is a definite challenge, but I think the more that we are supportive and embracing and open and have forums like this, for example, people to be able to share and just talk about these issues, it's really important.
Yeah. Oh, you know, your personal experiences, do they continue to inspire you, and the people that you come across in your mahi, do they continue to inspire you to just aspire to just try and do more, give more? Because I just know, I'm just aware of those that do work in this space, just their level of servitude to others is phenomenal. And, you know, so, you know, I'm wondering, how do you guys, through all this, I'm assuming you're inspired every day because of the length of time you've worked in this space, but, you know, what is it that you do to look after yourselves too, you know, when you come home? And do you know, is there a crossover sometimes, you know, do you lie in bed talking about, well, that's what happened to me today, or this is what I saw today? Because you must have some amazing stories, you know, that you go home with.
For sure. Yeah, it's a mixture really. You know, my with me and my son, there's still that challenge, and it will continue to be a challenge, you know, in terms of his wellness and how he chooses to take care of it. And I have different ideas on how I think he should. But you're talking about a 28-year-old who's an adult, you know. So you know, those are the challenges that we will continue to have, and those are the challenges that I see out there every day. You know, being able to find ways to communicate with him in a way that he will be able to take on board some of my thinking, but it's also for me to be open about his life, his autonomy in terms of him being able to live the life that he chooses. you know, you talk about vulnerability. I suppose going back 10 years, I probably wouldn't be talking about this because I'd be too whakamā, you know. When, you know, one things that I know that whānau go through when there's a family member that enters into the system, there's guilt, you know, guilt is one thing. I didn't do a good job, you know, so you're feeling guilty about the fact that, you know, what did I do wrong? Yeah, there's anxiety about, so what, you know, what's in front of me now, you know, how do we work through this? There's and you know, it's not just us two. There's his cousins, there's his aunties, there's his uncles, there's his grandmothers. There's, you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that are drawn in to that whole picture of how do we support our loved one going through this, and it's something that I see every day. You know, that's what I see in my mate every day. Families are trying to do the best with the best knowledge that they have, with the limited resources that they have. So I see my role as, how do I give this whānau to empower them to do the best that they can for their loved one.
And what? Sorry, you keep going. Sorry.
And you know, I'm challenged by that every day too. Every day. Yeah.
And Wheeti, you know, how do you must come across to whānau or individuals who have very little whānau. So where do they gain their support from? Where do they gain that aroha from? You know?
It's I mean, for me, we become their whānau.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's it simple. You know, and it's interesting because during this recent COVID period, I went and worked on one of the wards at the WDHB, and I sat and I talked to all of these people that were on the ward. Not probably, you know, there was about 12 people, you know, and out of those 12, 10 people had nowhere to go, nowhere.
Wow.
Nah, you know, and it's interesting though. You know, you sit there and you talk and you listen to their journey. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, if I was your family, I wouldn't have you back either. And I wouldn't. No, you know, after hearing their story, I can understand what the whānau's feeling. Totally understand, because I mean, been there, done it. Not only with my son, but with my brother too. You know.
Yes.
So you know, it can be tough, absolutely, and I can totally understand why families get to the point where they are hoha. You know, I just can't do this anymore. Sorry, and you know, I mean, it's not about us judging those families. It's about us understanding why. You know, because we can easily point the finger and say, "You fellas need to be doing this." But when you listen to the stories, you know, you get a good understanding to why. Absolutely, totally.
Yeah, because I live in Hamilton, on the east side of Hamilton, and sometimes I see, and I suppose I'm a little bit more aware when they're either Māori or Pacifica, and I see them walking along the streets and they're looking for butts, or and I really sometimes I just think, where is your whānau? You know, so and I have to stop myself, because I'm doing exactly what you said. Don't judge, and don't have bias, you know, but I really, there's a part of me that really wants to know their pūrākau, their story, about why they are there, you know.
I mean,
and
I think that's a good point that you raised, Turiana. You know, go back 10 years, you never saw anybody looking around for one butts. That's a new thing, hey, you know. I mean, so you know, and I mean, I understand that the government's thing around wanting to stamp out cigarette smoking by a particular time, but in that measure, you're forcing people to go and look in bins, pick up butts. Yeah, I mean, and that's the reality of that measure too.
Because for a lot of them, I think it's a coping mechanism. You know, it's something that gives them a little bit of time out, a bit of space. Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. Yeah.
I remember talking to Laurie Hakiwai, who's the CEO for Te Awhi Charitable Trust, and during the first lockdown that we've had, you know, in terms of outside of Tāmaki Makaurau, over a year ago now, and she said that they'd been so busy because, of course, people weren't able to walk along the streets and find butts. So they were actually buying them tobacco and taking them. And I was like, what? You know, what do you mean you're taking them tobacco? Because and then she explained to me that it's actually a coping mechanism for many of them. And, you know, it was just, and I realized how naive my own viewpoint and perception was of those that have challenges around mental health and well-being, you know? And I think it is easy for us to judge, and it's hard when you catch yourself doing it, you know, and you think, you know.
Because you're right, like everybody has a story, you know. Everybody has a story, and usually, like, you know, walking along the street, you see like whānau that we may have looked after or things like that, you know, and it's amazing if you just even just say kia ora, you know, in terms of just acknowledging them as a person, you know, and quite often they'll sort of, even people I don't know, you know, they may have a mental health issue or not, I just say kia ora, but, you know, in terms of like how that sort of changes their perception of the world and how others, you know, see them, you know. So it's, just simple things like that, and I can understand, you know, in terms of your thinking, oh my gosh, you're buying tobacco for these people, but, you know, just think of all the other health effects, you know, of picking up a cigarette butt that somebody else, a stranger, smoked and things like that, you know, so I can understand Laurie's heart.
What are some of the things that you are saying that, you know, are really kind of like, you know, do you think that we've actually seen I don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it, the worst of kind of what's going, you know, as a result of COVID? Do you think that COVID has heightened, you know, this kind of view of mental health and well-being? And do you think that there's more people that are perhaps not coping as well as previously? Because I think we like to know, but you guys probably actually know, so, you know.
I definitely think COVID has opened up the discussion for mental well-being.
Okay.
Because it's absolutely, this is the one event, I guess, that has affected an entire population of the world, you know. So usually if there's a disaster like Whakaari or things like that, it's sort of central, like, you know, to a population. But this is something that I never thought we would ever experience in our lifetime, you know, an event that has affected the entire world. So I think everyone has been impacted in some way, shape or form, and there's the fear of not, you know, of initially not knowing what it was, and you can see the changes in people's behaviour, even how they sort of interacted, and, you know, sort of like, you know, fearful of each other, and you know, and just being isolated and locked down into our own dwellings, you know, the impact of that, loss of, you know, your daily routine and identity, and being able to go about, you know, especially for our tamariki and rangatahi, you know, the challenges that brings too, in terms of being able to connect with their peers, and the interruption, you know, we're seeing that in Auckland, the interruption to education, you know, and the impact of that. So I definitely think it has brought the topic of mental well-being, or, you know, distress and anxiety, definitely to the fore.
And have you seen a larger uptake of of your kind of services, or services in terms of assisting people?
Yeah. So I you know, over the first lockdown, you know, there was a huge, I think, I don't know, like 200-300% increase in terms
Wow.
of need for even just, you know, early intervention, you know, so they'd increased 1737 phone calls and had to bring in a whole lot of staff to cope with the impact of people needing support, just someone to talk to, provide advice and guidance. And so that's definitely been a roll-on effect in terms of not only lower level intervention, but, you know, whānau needing more intensive supports. So yeah, it's definitely impact. I mean, our 6-year-old, first lockdown he was fine. The second lockdown, I mean, we had tears every morning going to school.
Oh.
Yeah, he was just really anxious, and it was only until last week that we've not got any tears. But, you know, just that sort of disruption, and that as parents is distressing. Yeah, so, yeah.
Wheeti, how about you? In terms
I
of...
mean, my reason for working during COVID, during the level 4, was because our wards were over full. Yeah. So you know, people were still coming in, and due to level 4, people weren't able to leave, so they were just getting packed, and
Wow.
so we had to find other ways of alleviating those numbers. I mean, we were able to, but yeah. So I mean, you know, and it's. I think the whole thing around not being able to have the contact with whānau, you know, I mean, if anyone told me that I would be attending a tangi virtually 3 years ago, I would have laughed at, you know,
Yes.
I mean, God,
Yes.
really?
Yeah.
You know, things like our tiny with pokais, you know, they, you know, all of that stuff, you know, all of those gatherings that we have been brought up with, you know, it's all changed, you know.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, there's going to be the big argument now about vaccinated and unvaccinated.
Yes.
You know, and I mean, and that's just going to add to everything else too, you know, and it's already happening now, you know.
Yes.
So, you know, and I mean, the impact that separation is going to have, you know, with even within your own whānau, about those who are choosing not to, and those who are choosing to, and those who are telling that you have to. I mean, that's going to, you know, bring out a lot of challenges when it comes to our well-being.
Oh yes, we've got an auntie who recently said, "I'm not an anti-vaxxer, I'm pro-choice."
Yeah.
And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, you know, and the other thing that comes with not seeing whānau is that so many of us in Aotearoa have whānau that live overseas. And so there's that whole distance thing. You know, we are used to being able to fly whenever we need to fly, you know, and have that contact. I've actually got a question from somebody who's watching, and so kia ora to Lisa Roberts. She'd like to know, how do you become a support worker?
There's different level. If you want to get a qualification, there's different level 4 qualifications that you can go through. So just trying to think off the top of my head. If you just look Te Hauora, I think. Yeah.
And if you just wanted to like volunteer some of your time, or to, you know, can people volunteer, Wheeti, you know, when your ward is bursting with people, can people come in and volunteer and help, you know, volunteer to assist with that? Or is that specialised kind of, you know, expertise is required?
I wish. I mean, I wish that would be an ideal situation. But yeah, I think at certain levels there's gonna you sort of need a baseline of knowledge in terms of what you're sort of dealing with, you know. But you know, for me, we are born with stuff that we can do that, you know. I mean, you support every day, you know. Hey, I mean, it's just a natural thing that we all do. But I suppose when you want to put it into situation where you are dealing with someone that's in crisis, someone that's saying that I don't want to live anymore. I mean, yeah, that sort of interaction, you need some sort of baseline knowledge to know how to sort of deal with that.
Yeah. You know, I think the one thing that is definitely coming about is the need to diversify our workforce, and definitely peer support, people with lived experience, and also whānau, or people that just want, because we've all got different experiences that we can contribute and offer. But so there are definitely positions within different organisations that are looking for support workers, and you can you know, put forward your life experience, and usually those services, I mean, that's how Wheeti came into working within this field, take you on board and provide that education and support. So you can either go out and look for different courses, and or, you know, look to entering into the workforce and be supported by an employer.
And in terms of volunteering, where would people go if they wanted to, like, cook a meal, or, I don't know, contribute some kākahu, or...
Yeah, I guess there's all those different, you know...
Just, you know, I think there's a lot of people that would like to do more volunteering work.
Yeah, there's volunteering waikato, you know, there's, there's the different providers like Salvation Army, there's, you know, Women's Refuge, there's a whole range of different services that you can, you know, go into and support. Even if you wanted to look into mental health first aid, so Red Cross and
St. John's,
you know, because that's that stuff about just learning how to have a conversation and sit with somebody and be a listening ear, and then be able to point them into the right direction. And it's just about how do we build, and it's common sense really, but, you know, how do we build and acknowledge those skills that we already have, but build on them to be able to support whānau. So, yeah, I think that's really exciting. If you want to become a volunteer, Lisa, go for it.
Yeah.
I have to ask, now I'm going to ask you both two questions, and I'll ask Wheeti first. What inspires you every day to get up and do your mahi?
Her, my son.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just, I mean, it's just something that I think that I was born with. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some days where I don't want to get up, you know.
Yes.
I think, man, I just want to stay in bed. I don't want to go to work, but, you know, but, you know, it's those that are around you that give you that drive, you know. And, for me, the simple answer to that is whānau. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Jolene, for you?
Be cliche and say the same as them. No. Yeah, it is whānau, but it's just being able to make a difference, you know. Hold on, I'm just going to ask our 6-year-old to get off this one. Wainga. And it's still on it. Yeah, it's just being able to make a difference, you know, because we're really privileged to be able to go into whānau's homes and for them to open up their door and to share their story and their struggles with us, who start off as strangers, you know. So it's a really privileged space to be in, and you know, we've seen some whānau that are in a lot of distress and need, and to be able to walk that journey alongside them is really rewarding. And I think, you know, for me, every time I'm faced with a challenge or a situation, I'm always like, how is it that we can do things better for whānau? And that's the thing, you know, if I was whānau, if I put myself in the situation, what is it that I would want? And that's the thing that keeps me pushing forward and doing the things I do, as well as support from my own whānau and the motivation that they provide me. Yeah.
It's quite interesting too, Hannah. Given my whakapapa, a lot of the people I help, they're my whānau anyway, you know.
Yes.
And yeah. But it's interesting that the first thing I say is, do you want me to be there, given that you know who I am? Yeah, absolutely, you know. And it sifts through a lot of bullshit, because I know what happens, you know. So don't talk shit to me, don't tell me lies, you know. Hey, which is a good thing, you know.
Yes.
And I think we can have those real frank and upfront conversations with them, mate. And at times that's what needs to happen. We need to be able to challenge, you know, some of the things that are happening within our whānaus, that in order to make that change. Yeah, for sure.
Well, if I think about your parents, Wheeti, who are at the forefront of tamatua, you know, along with a group of many, and really the change that they forged so that we could kōrero Māori, so, you know, and many other things, you know. I think that to hear you say that is, you know, living up to almost the legacy of your parents, and then creating legacy for your family moving forward. One more question I have for both of you is, what do you do for your well-being? I love the pause. What do you do for you?
Well, for me, I got up 4:15 this morning to be at the gym by 5. Did a 2-hour session there. Came home, had a healthy breakfast, and then I was gone to work. You know, and so you know that form, and I love the challenge. I love that physical challenge. And you know, what I sort of discovered with that is that it doesn't get easier. You just get mentally stronger to push yourself through past those points where your body's telling you give up, and you say to yourself, "Nah, I'm not. I'm going to keep on going." Hey, and that's what gives me inspiration. Yeah.
That reminds me of how I felt during my jog this morning. I thought I was only Jolene, what do you do for yours?
Yeah, gosh, I think it's spending time with whānau and friends for me. You know, it's just being together. The first thing I do when I get home, I walk through the door and I always say to him, "How was your day?" You know, it's just the opportunity to debrief and to talk and connect and just be. I think that's really important for me. Wheeti's given me a whittle to pick up his challenge to join him at the gym. Currently, I'm the sponsor. So you know, fits and spats of doing exercise, but I've been given that whittle. But it really is for me whānau, and I mean, I think I've talked about it before, dear. It's just to waiata, you know, the healing.
Yes, I know.
And singing and being in that atmosphere, so that's really important to me. And the great thing I love is that Wheeti's always playing music all the time, so our house is always full of music.
I love that because I know that you're a country singer, or you're a bit of a muso in another life, right?
Yeah, well, grew up singing country, but joined an R&B band. So
woohoo!
Yeah.
Well, the thing that I've often loved about both of you is when I see you both is that the obvious love that you have for one another. And it was super cute because when I said what inspires you, you didn't see it, Jolene, but Wheeti went like that to you. And, you know, I've crossed your paths a number of times, and each time I can almost not only see the love, but actually feel the love from both of you. And I'm sure that both of you take that into your mahi as well. So thank you so much for all the amazing contributions that you make in your mahi to our community here in Kirikiriroa, Rahui, Pōkeka, Narawa, Wahia, Tikuti and beyond. Because I know, Jolene, that you work beyond Kirikiriroa. And but thank you both for your for your heart and your soul, your waira, for your everything that you put into your mahi. Thanks for joining us this evening. Really appreciate the kōrero. And because he's here, I'm going to ask Wheeti Oh, and is there any last words that you both want to say before we close off?
Oh, just thank you for the opportunity to be in this space and place, because it's such a valuable platform, and just want to say to Whānau, taking a leaf out of Wheeti's our book, we were born with everything that we needed. So, don't ever feel that you're not good enough. You are good enough. And, if you ever need support or awhi, just reach out. Look around you. I had the fortunate opportunity to go and talk to Māori and Pacifica students at Wheeti yesterday. And, it's just really encouraging to see our people looking to move into this space, because it's very much needed. So yeah, like Lisa's exploring, working and moving into sport worker role. We need you, Whānau. We need you in every space and place to support our whānau. So yeah, just kia kaha, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having us on, Tuihana. Really enjoyed the kōrero, and it's forums like these that can hopefully inspire people to come and join us, and to be part of that. I think for me though, I think the pathway to wellness is prevention. I mean, and that's what it comes down to, and my ideal look of the future is, how do we stop people coming into the system?
Yeah.
I mean, that's bottom line. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Those were two little inspirational quotes that you just gave us then. And Wheeti, could I please ask you, and I just want to mihi to everybody that has come on board and listened this evening. I think the greatest thing is, it doesn't matter whether it's 5 people, 10 people, 20 people that are listening. It's that somebody is listening, and that somebody has taken home a few little learnings. Listen to this inspiration kōrero from you both. And so I'm mihi to everyone that's listened and participated this evening, including you both. But Wheeti, I am going to ask you to close us. Kia ora.
Kia ora. I'm going to close with our whānau karakia. Tēnei au ka tuku ki uta, tēnei au ka tuku ki tai, tēnei au ka tuku ki te rāwhiti, kia rere ai te kahu ki te rangi, kia mētera o maumahara, kia rarirari o manawa, kia raukuru o ngākau, tau mai te manawa, tau te kotari I te rā, tau ārire, tau mārire, rire hau, pai mārire.
Pai mārire. Kia ora.
Kia ora.
Thank you, everyone.